It's not who gets in the first word that counts, but who gets in the last word. Now, the guys that always get in the last word, brothers Tom and Dave.
You come in here with a skull full of mush, and if you survive, you leave thinking like a lawyer.
Well, that's what we want to have
right.
you do tonight. We want to have you leave this show thinking like a lawyer.
Especially after all the legal stuff that's going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
Where it doesn't appear that the United States government did much thinking like a lawyer. Or at least the Obama administration.
Well, we're going to get to those things, but first we need to, after a tough week, hopefully Solicitor General Ventrelli will enjoy this and kind of, if you're listening, Mr. Solicitor General, just think of that part of the country in them, what you call them, cage down bayou in them Louisiana. Because we got old Boudreaux, he die and he go to them pearly gate. And St. Peter, he wait for him to get there. And when they meet up, St. Peter, he say, well, Boudreaux, I cannot let you pass through them gate until you answered me this question 3. Well, Boudreaux, he say, bring it on, give them the best shot. So he say, okay, Boudreaux, number 1, how many seconds do they got in 1 year? Mm-hmm. And Boudreaux said, that easy. St. Pete, he said, we got 12. He said, Boudreaux, how you come up with them answer 12? And Boudreaux say, January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd. So he said, well, that not quite, but I let that go. I give you question 2. How many days you got in them week? And Boudreaux said, that easy, St. Pete, we got 2. He says, where you get 2? He said, well, we got today and we got tomorrow. He said, that's not what I look for, but again, I let you go. But now the third question, it got to be right or I can't let you in. Who is our father? And Boudreaux say, that easy, St. Peter, Howard. And St. Peter say, where you get them Howard name from, Boudreaux? And Boudreaux, he say, our Father who art in heaven, Howard be thy name.
Yeah.
So, that let's see, that'll take care of the Cajuns and perhaps some of the religious listeners. Let's see, what else?
We got it.
Who else
another another Boudreaux, the airlines? You want to do the airline.
Oh, no. Boudreaux and Thibodeau, they take them first flight. The plane, they fly off a little while, and they pass, and the captain come on the intercom. He say, they going to be 30 minutes late because one them engine blew. The engine repaired, and the plane take flight again, and some more time pass. They come on again and say, they blow another engine. It's going to be an hour delay this time. That engine fix, and the plane take off, and a little while later, the captain come on one more time, say going to be another half hour because the third engine break. And Boudreaux tell Thibodeau, May, if the fourth engine go out, we're going to be stuck up here forever. Okay.
That's right. I thought there was the other one with the left side and the right side.
Oh, no, we talked about some other time.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Let's see, what
speaking, are you going a little more tummy to
Oh, there was the time where Boudreaux and Thibodeau went hunting and got lost in the woods.
Okay.
And Boudreaux was lamenting their fate. He said, I heard them best thing when you get lost, you fire 3 shots in the air. So they did, and they wait for them while, and no rescue party show. They fire 3 more shots. Finally, still no response, and Thibodeau say, I guess we better fire 3 more shots. And Boudreaux say, okay, if you say so, but somebody better come soon. We out of arrows. Okay.
I feel a lot better now, Tom.
Good. So
I still feel pretty good about the latest Supreme Court. I still feel pretty good about the way the Supreme Court has treated. Well, I feel sorry for the Solicitor General.
Well,
okay.
Now we're going to get into.
I do feel sorry for that.
Now we're going to get into offending people with physical disabilities.
How are we going to do that?
Because Ventrelli standing before the Supreme Court on the immigration law and on Obamacare was like a double amputee.
Oh.
Didn't have a leg to stand on.
That's right.
Boom, boom.
And we've been there a few times on that ourselves, Tom, where kind of had it's not a pleasant experience.
So, it'd be like,
and you have to be creative.
Well, no, we can mix history and humor and teaching, and Professor Kingsfield would be proud.
Oh, good. Okay.
Lincoln was representing a gentleman in court in the morning. This was back in the days when they used to ride the circuit. So he was in this particular town's courthouse for the morning, and he represented a man on a particular case, argued eloquently, and won. That afternoon, he was in front of the same judge. It was the same type of a case, except this time he was representing the opposite side. He came before the court, and he started his argument. He says, "Mr. Lincoln," "Yes, Judge." "Weren't you here this morning?" He says, "I was." "And weren't we in exactly the same type of case as we were this morning?" "We are." "Didn't you represent the other side this morning?" He said, "I did." "And didn't I rule in your favor this morning?" "You did." He says, "Well, then how come you can come in me the afternoon of the same day and argue the opposite side?" He says, "Well, Judge, this morning you were wrong." So, let me get into our quick segment of Mind Trap before we start getting into these things. Picture a bridge 4 kilometers long. Get your pencils and papers out. A bridge 4 kilometers long and strong enough to hold 10,000 kilograms, but no more. A loaded transport truck weighing exactly 10,000 kilograms drives onto the bridge. At the halfway point, a sparrow weighing 30 grams lands on the truck, and yet the bridge does not collapse. How can that be? Shameless tease, we'll figure out sometime in the show when we'll give you the answer, but you'll have to stick around till then, otherwise you'll miss it. But as you were pointing out with the Supreme Court,
which may end up to be an 8-0 decision, the way some of those justices were acting.
8-0 in favor of part of the law, anyway.
Yes, in favor of part of the law, saying that Arizona can go ahead and detain people and call the feds and say, "We have somebody that may be here illegally. Why don't you do something about it?"
No, I think what the way I understood it, the justices were saying, so you're going to have somebody stopped for some other reason. And then you're going to call the feds and say, "We've stopped this person for driving on a suspended, driving on a revoked, no driver's license, drunk driving, whatever it is. Will you run him through your records and see if he or she is here legally?" And they'll get word from the feds, and the feds then the feds can say, "Yeah, they're not here legally, but we ain't coming to get them." And the justices seem to say, well, so what's wrong with that? If the feds come to get them, the feds come to get them. If the feds don't come to get them, they don't.
Yeah, but that brings a big question in about the concept of what is the deal with the executive? Is the executive of the United States, meaning the president, the chief executive, and those under him, are they there to enforce the laws of the United States or not?
That was one of the comments that was put forth by the Supreme Court in their arguments and their colloquy with Mr. Ventrelli. Let's see, we can...
Well, the thing I'm getting at, Tom, is now you and I know that there is such a thing called prosecutorial discretion.
It starts with the policeman on the street. Does he decide to write you a ticket or not? And if so, what's he going to write you for?
But once it moves up to the actual prosecuting office, a prosecutor, I think, has the discretion to indict. They have the discretion whether or not to move forward on a complaint.
They got the discretion as to what they want to indict you for, whether they want to overcharge to try to beat a plea out of you. I can charge you with a marginal Class X, which, for those of you who don't know, Class X is a mandatory penitentiary sentence of 6 to 30 years. And maybe it's thin, but the question, according to Clint Eastwood, would be, Are you feeling lucky? And do you want to go with a judge or a jury and gamble that you might be found guilty of a Class X and have to go to the joint for 6 years? Or do you want to take what's behind door number one? Now, I can charge the Class X or I can not charge the Class X. If I don't charge the Class X, then I'm dealing with a Class 4 felony or something else like that.
But can you take a law and just ignore it? I think my understanding of prosecutorial discretion is that you can take a law and a prosecutor can decide not to enforce it.
That's the prosecutorial discretion. They
So
do have that.
let's apply that to Attorney Justice Eric Holder. Does he have prosecutorial discretion to enforce a law or not and say he's going to prosecute or not?
Do you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to wait until after our break to answer that question here on The Laz Word.
All right. We will let you wait, and we'll be back on the other side here on Intelligent Talk with Tom and Dave.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the Laz Word, Tom and Dave.
So, dear older brother, since I'm the younger brother, you know. I'm the younger brother. You're the older brother.
That's the younger brother with less wisdom and less experience that comes with age.
No, you know what? You know, I have less hair than you have. You know what? I want to know why? Because my brain is enlarged so much in my skull with wisdom that it pushed my hair out.
Are you kidding? You know what happened?
Grow.
That's because you kept scratching your head trying to figure out answers to questions, and you're the one who took care of your own. Anyway, the prosecutorial discretion thing. They have ultimate discretion. They can charge, not charge, decide for whatever.
But if we look at the Constitution directs the executive to faithfully execute the laws that have been passed in the United States.
Okay.
So does that mean that upon the Attorney General and the executive branch, they do not have the discretion to refuse to enforce laws?
I think once upon a time, the revered President Andrew Jackson once talked about a decision by Chief Justice John Marshall. He says he made a decision. He says let him enforce it. Does that make
the issue impeachable? Does that make a call for impeachment of a cabinet member who would refuse to go ahead and follow the law?
Well, I think if you had
even the president.
I think if you had a cabinet member, you'd shut the door on him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
even in the kitchen.
The kitchen cabinet. Yes.
Not with the czars. Would the czars be considered a kitchen cabinet? The old term kitchen cabinet. Maybe all those czars out there are Obama's kitchen cabinet. Well, they're sure cutting things up and leaving a mess, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Okay.
So, as we were talking about intelligently before I was so rudely interrupted, if you were following the arguments, Verrilli was expected to argue Virginia's stop and arrest provision, if put in effect, would lead to the harassment and intimidation of Latinos. But before he could even begin his opening comments, Chief Justice Roberts cut him off, says, no part of your arguments got to do with race or ethnic profiling, does it?
Yeah, we love that. That's
okay.
the
No, it doesn't. Okay. And when Verrilli was arguing that the Arizona law could lead to, quote, mass incarcerations, unquote, Justice Anthony Kennedy said, so you're saying that the government has a legitimate interest in not enforcing its own laws? So I suppose, yeah, if the reason you don't want to enforce the laws is because you want to curry favor with the Latino vote. And it just bugs the hell out of me. Can I say hell on the radio? I think I can.
I think I say hell, yeah.
It's not one of the 7 biggies. Okay. It bugs the hell out of me that people insult segments of the voting of the American public as voters. Well, you don't want to upset the women's vote, as if women are mindless people who vote on one issue and one issue alone.
Well, that's the one thing that gets me. This idea of a monolithic bloc.
You don't want to do anything to offend the unions because
the unions, the women. The gays.
So what happens if you have a union member? What happens if you have a Catholic member of a union who is pro-life?
Exactly.
And you're pushing and you're pushing stuff for the unions, but you're favoring abortion. So does he join the Catholic voter bloc and vote pro-life bloc, or does he stay with the union and vote for the pro-union? So were you pandering to the Latino vote? And I think it's an insult. I really think it's an insult, ladies and gentlemen, to take the position that doing anything to plug the holes in our border is going to insult the Latinos and incite the Latinos to vote for Obama. What about all the Latinos? And it doesn't have to only be Latinos, but it's anybody who worked and paved the way and came here according to the law. Why should those people be upset that other lawbreakers snuck in? I would say, fine, send them back. But you're Latino. So send them back. I waited in line to get here, and let them wait in line the way I did.
Hey, I got a good jobs making program. If we build what's the pipeline? That's the pipeline from Canada.
That pipeline.
That one that we're supposed to that Obama doesn't want to build.
Yeah.
And if you really want to make a lot of jobs, why don't you just run a corridor? Right with the pipeline. We'll put it on both sides, and we'll pave a big road so that they can come through. We can get the illegals down at the border and have them come from there and go all the way to Canada, and see what Canada's going to do with them.
To do that. Oh. Do you know who would be to blame if Colorado, not Colorado, if California were to break off from the United States and either sink into the sea or become an island? It would be San Andreas's fault.
Even though I don't know about you, but sometimes I think of praying to San Andreas that it happens. Actually, all you have to do is call Lex Luthor, right? And get him to set up the nuke and hit the
Kryptonite.
San Andreas fault. Remember Richard J. Daley? He always said it's easy to find fault. Is it? Yeah, we'll go to California. You can find it right into San Andreas. But it's not easy to solve the problems, and that's what we're talking about over here. Now, the other interesting part is, whether you are a Democrat, whether you are a Republican, are you for the President of the United States using your tax money to pay for his campaigning?
Other than the theoretical dollar that I donate to the president's campaign fund?
Other than that, because that's your choice. So I don't know how many of our listeners realize what it takes to get the president nowadays days
from point A to point B.
Yeah, from point A to point B is in terms of flying, in terms of cars. I mean, this is not going back to Truman or Eisenhower, or, well, unfortunately, what happened with Kennedy. But right now, it takes millions of dollars.
Well, you got Air Force One and Air Force 1A
automatically.
Two bulletproof cars.
Two bulletproof cars. All those nice, heavy Chevy Suburbans that
sucking up that $4 gallon of gas, $5 gallon of gas. And there's a possibility that you're getting prepped for it maybe going up to $9 at some point in time.
Well, that's a good thing.
Well, let's.
Well, according to the administration, it's a good thing.
And if you had electric cars and everybody went to electric cars, then you'd never have enough power stations to produce the electric to charge the cars. Not to mention you'd have to use coal, which would probably pollute the environment. But be that as it may. The worst thing is you got a president who, well, he'll claim he's not a liar because he was just reading something that one of his staffers drafted and put in front of him for speech. But he was recently talking about, I'm out here. I don't want to mistake it. I'm gonna quote it. I want to read it and quote it. Here, there's this congresswoman, and he's talking to a group of college kids. There's this congresswoman who says she can't abide college students who are coming out of college with debt. And, of course, that drew snickers and guffaws. And all they're doing is sitting on their butts and waiting for things to be handed to them, as if this is what this woman actually said. And for those of you who listened to Glenn Beck, this was something Glenn brought up last week. And he then played the entire cut of what was said by the congresswoman, who said she doesn't understand why people come out with $250,000 worth of debt. or anything above 80,000, so which would be like borrowing for 20 years. And the implication would be she had a silver spoon in her mouth and daddy gave her lots of money. She says, I graduated college. She says, it took me 7 years and I worked to get myself through. And there were a couple of other misquotes. You could Google Glenn Beck and the president and all. But the only thing I can think of is maybe this new speechwriter is the guy from NBC.
Oh, they fired him. Now he's got
edited out the 9/11 dispatchers' questions when it came to Trayvon Martin and justice for Trayvon to make Zimmerman look like a racist. So now maybe that's where he's at, and he's selectively taken parts of other people's speeches, writing them down and telling the press, "Hey, this is a direct quote, and you can use it." Because putting quotation marks around things doesn't make it a quote.
Oh,
but just maybe if you're, and you would think someone who was the editor of the Harvard Law Review would know that.
Well, oh yeah, he was. You mean the one who went in with a mind of mush, and as far as I am concerned, Tom, still came out with a mind of mush when it comes to Constitution and constitutional concepts.
Professor Kingsfield died before he got there.
That's right. Yeah, should have had Professor Kingsfield. And we will be back after the traffic, news, and weather here this Monday morning on WIND Intelligent Talk with the Laz Word.
They're lawyers, so you know they'll always have the Laz Word. Here's Tom and Dave.
Well, fortunately, Tom, you're on the other side of the news. The news didn't report that North Korea has launched any nukes or Iran is launching any nukes, even though I guess Iran is now supposed to be reverse engineering one of our little drones that they caught.
I mean, making the train go backwards?
Yeah, that's exactly right, yeah. So we're still here. We're still here this wonderful Monday morning as we help you start out the morning and prepare for the week.
Start your week. That's right. Start your week with the Laz Word.
Yes.
And send us a comment. The Laz Word at yahoo.com. Because we have a piece of paper in front of us that we always say, oh, darn, we didn't say that. So we did it. Well, we're going to give the mind trap question right now. Because we need to keep you guessing as to when we're going to give the answer in the show to make you stay. Picture a bridge 4 kilometers long and strong enough to hold 10,000 kilograms, but no more. A loaded transport truck weighing exactly 10,000 kilograms drives onto the bridge. At the halfway point, a sparrow weighing 30 grams lands on the truck, yet the bridge doesn't collapse. How can this be?
And it can be.
And the answer is simply because the truck would have burned off more than 30 grams of fuel in the first 2 kilometers crossing the bridge. Therefore, the sparrow's added weight would have no effect. If you couldn't understand why the truck didn't plunge into the ravine below, you fell into the mind trap. Drew Peterson, if you remember.
Oh, yes.
We're going to have to get Brodsky.
Oh, we will. I put a call into Joel, and just for those of you out there who may or may not know, Joel Brodsky, representing Drew Peterson, is a fellow classmate of mine. Graduated with us in 1982, DePaul Law School. And he's out there representing Drew. And, I'm sure that Joel will be happy to give us a little bit of an insight to the extent that he can.
Now, we're going to be getting a trial on Drew Peterson in another probably 2 months or so. And that's because Joel and his cohorts decided not to appeal the recent appellate court ruling that allowed some of the hearsay in. And
now, why don't we stop over there and explain to our listeners what we're talking about? I mean, most people know what hearsay means, but how it specially qualifies in this case.
Okay, well, generally hearsay is a witness on a stand saying somebody told me this and this and that and that. And the reason you don't let it in is because you could be lying and that person never said that and that to you, or you could be telling the truth and that's what so-and-so said to you, but so-and-so was lying when they said it to you, and we have no way to validate the truth or not of your testimony, so you don't usually let hearsay in. And in the Drew Peterson case, what they want to do is they want to have people coming in and saying, a dead person told me the following. Now, no attorney has any way of verifying that one way or another, nor the circumstances, what might have caused that person to make that statement. It's a funny thing. Those of you who may be in a divorce or know someone who was in a divorce, why don't you take a little poll and find out how many of those people also wound up getting involved with orders of protection because somebody decided to run to the police and claim they got tapped, or somebody raised their voice and yelled at me and I was alarmed and disturbed and I've been harassed and made to feel bad, so I need an order of protection. Especially if you have a law enforcement person in there. Get whacked with an order of protection, they can't pack their heat. They can't carry their gun, and they can't very well be a policeman.
Except in England.
So you get a certain edge.
You get to be a Bobby.
And my experience is that if there's going to be a question, a judge will issue that, because a judge is not going to be on the 10 o'clock news with somebody being injured or dead, and then they're going to flash your picture up over the anchor's left shoulder, and they'll say, Judge so-and-so was asked to issue an order of protection but did not do so. The implication being if they entered the order of protection, this person will still be alive. The people who will honor an order of protection really don't need to have it issued, and those that aren't going to obey it and are the ones who need to, and they'll shoot you or punch you through the
no matter what. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, big deal. You're going to hit me with an order of protection. Big deal. But so they're going to let stuff in. But the question, why they didn't appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court, is that the Illinois Supreme Court did not base its ruling on Drew's law, but an Illinois Supreme Court decision, and I believe People versus Runge,
okay,
where they set forth other bases for letting in hearsay in connection with murder trials. So you've got the Supreme Court saying, according to our decision in Runge, within the last 2 years, this is what we're going to let in. For you to say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to appeal the appellate court's ruling and tell the Supreme Court that what they decided 2 years ago was wrong. That's not going to happen.
No, not at all.
So let's get the show on the road
in 2009.
And let Glasgow put on the fact that he's got nothing except a bunch of hearsay and the fact that Drew Peterson is not a likable person.
What they can do is while the trial's going on, they can object. They can object on whatever, on the basis, and then you have a substantive issue that comes before them as to whether or not it should be let in or not.
Well,
yes, no, yes.
I agree, and it's also going to... I don't know that it'll be appealed because I think he's going to be found not guilty.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that. Despite what's going to happen, that may be what's happening here on WIND. See you around the corner.
Didn't get enough of your family for the holidays? Here's two brothers you can always count on for the last word. Tom and Dave.
Years ago, you may not remember this because you're just a little kid and young. There used to be a commercial for a hair cream called Top Brass. Mm-hmm. And it launched the career of Agent 99 on Maxwell Smart.
Oh, she was in the commercial?
She was. She was in one of these provocative poses with pants that were probably in a spray can earlier in the day. And she was laying on her tummy, propped up on her elbows, with her legs bent towards her butt in one of these really provocative poses.
You want to get more descriptive, Tom? I
don't know. Debbie's liable to shut us off on the board if I get too more descriptive. But she's sitting on she's laying on a tiger skin rug, and she'd begin the commercial with, "I want a word with all you tigers. You men know who you are." And then she went on to hawk Top Brass. Well, I'm not on a tiger skin rug, and I'm not going to sprawl out on the table in front of Debbie and put my feet up towards my butt and lift up on. But I want a word.
I know, Debbie, you wouldn't want to see that. I don't think our producer would want to see that either.
I want a word with all you smokers. You people know who you are. You're the ones who huddle outside those doors on those cold winter days to satisfy your nicotine.
You can get it on.
cravings.
You can get it on YouTube. You type in Felon. If you type in "feline with Felton" top brass commercial,
Yeah.
you can see it on YouTube.
So those of you who want to tell your kids about what you used to see, you can Google it and you can tell your children and your grandchildren, now this is what commercial TV was really good. Hey, sex sells. I'm sorry, Deb.
It does.
But all you smokers, I don't want to single out all of you smokers. I only want to single out the smokers who voted for Pat Quinn. Yes, this is the same Pat Quinn who wants another $1 as a tax on your package of 20 sticks of cancer-causing
Per pack.
Per pack, $1 a pack.
So that would mean you pay. There's 20. There's 22 a carton or 12.
22 a package, and I think 12 to a carton.
So-
Never having indulged in the noxious weed myself. But that so. I guess we could say,
You know how much? I got to look this up and see if I can find this. I wonder right now in this state, because this happened in New York. New York made their taxes. They continued to raise the taxes on cigarettes, continued to raise them, and continued to raise them. And after a while, it caused a black market where people were bringing in cigarettes from other states. And they were still able to sell them on a black market below the cost of what it would take to get cigarettes in New York.
well, I'm telling you, if I live in Cal City, Gary, Indiana,
Yeah, that's where you're going.
is where I'm going, or East Chicago, and then I'll just come back. Then we're going to get into a whole thing of which cars do you stop to make them pop the trunk and see how
Exactly.
many, and we're going to have. But think of it from that standpoint. Comes criminal cases. From criminal cases come lawyers needed to defend, and lawyers needed to defend mean money for the lawyers.
So maybe this
So
isn't such
no,
a
hey,
bad-
I take that back. All you smokers, I'm glad you voted for Pat Quinn, and anybody who needs me to represent them when they get stopped coming over the state line, you can get a hold of me at thelastword@yahoo.com. See how I slipped that in again?
That was good.
But yes, Pat Quinn. Pat Quinn is giving the updated version of Bathhouse John. Was it Bathhouse John Coughlin or Hinky Dink Kennedy?
No, it was Bathhouse John, first word alderman at the turn of the century in 100 years ago. I mean, where he raised his arms to encompass the council and said, "We are in need of funds." And at that point, he didn't mean the council either. I mean, he meant the members, not the council.
Yeah.
But right now, I wonder what the tax rate is, because how many times over the last 30, 40 years time since we've been growing up, have you heard, well, what are we going to do? We're going to raise...
The emperor.
Yeah.
The emperor
I think,
has said he doesn't think it will pass the House. The comments came after Democratic Governor Pat Quinn last week proposed increasing the state's 98-cent per pack cigarette tax by an additional $1. It is part of the governor's plan to get spending under control for the state's nearly $15 billion Medicaid program. Quinn has suggested $1.4 billion in coverage cuts and other reductions. It's like Representative Mike Connolly said, why don't you stop, and I don't want to sound like Jack Nicholson, why don't you stop paying out-of-state patients? Make them show that they're Illinois residents.
You didn't want to sound like Jack Nicholson?
Well, I guess subconsciously I did.
And that was the worst, not sounding like Jack Nicholson, that sound like Jack Nicholson that I ever heard.
Here's Johnny.
Here's Patrick. Yes, here's the governor. Going to raise taxes on your cigarettes.
And your hard worked for earnings will be going up in smoke.
Oh, yes.
And really, I'm not a smoker. Don't particularly care about it. But I don't begrudge you people the right to do it. I think being able to have a cigar or a cigarette in a bar is your right. I spent a ball game. An open air stadium, please. Anyway.
Well, we're coming. We're going to come to the next to the last stop. I think I got some little interesting information here that I will share with our tax smoking brethren on the other side of the break here at the Last Word, the place for intelligent talk, and starting off your Monday on WIND.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
Welcome back here to the Last Word with wonderful little brother Tom, and little brother Dave, and then, well, there's Tom, too.
And it's the last segment.
That's right. And looking up, going to the almighty internet that has the answer to everything. Maybe
All hail, almighty internet.
Has the answer to everything. Certainly,
For those of you who
meaning of life.
If you look close into your radio, you can see the internet is standing there like the old party chairman in Moscow. They got a smile in their hand.
Yeah, wave
a fake hand waving sideways.
Let's see. This would be an increase, as you said, Tom. This would be an increase. I think off the air you made a comment about, and the cigarette tax of 100%.
100% plus.
Plus,
It's 98 cents
cents
now, and you want to make it increase it by $1. That's what, 101, 102%?
Well, just like I mentioned before when I started talking about the issue of maybe black markets coming into cigarettes, is the rate, if you want to go into New York State, and you want to smoke in New York State, your tax on a pack of cigarettes is $4.35.
So in New York, when it relates to cigarettes, syntax is more than just another word for your type of vocabulary.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the nice part for the people along the western edge of the state is they can go to Missouri and they could buy it because the Missouri tax is 17 cents. And Wisconsin.
What are you looking at? The Obama map of 47 states? Where does New York butt up against Missouri in your map?
No, I'm talking about from us.
Oh,
us, Illinois.
I'm sorry, I didn't know we got on a plane and left New York.
Yeah, we left New York. We left New York, and then you don't want to go to You don't want to go to Wisconsin for it because Wisconsin is at $2.52, and Indiana's like us. Indiana is $9.95. But if you want to run down to Kentucky, in Kentucky you can get it for 60 cents a pack. So I'm just trying to do a little public service to our listeners out here who are smoking about where you can go and get the cigarettes.
Did I ever mention to you why we know the toothbrush was invented in the South?
No, you never did.
Because if it was invented in the North, they'd call it a teeth brush.
Oh.
Okay, well, we don't have too much time left, so alienating the Southerners and the rednecks from our show for the last 2 minutes.
Are those all the ones south of 80?
Yeah, everybody south of I-80, the rest of it. And another weather front, and for those of you south of I-80, it's going to be colder or warmer or whatever it is. Who decided? Is there a geographic or weather line that somebody decided to draw
It's kind of like the Mason-Dixon line. Kind of like the weather. It's the weather Mason-Dixon line when you're above 80 and south of 80.
How did you answer that question? Did you take a survey? Anyway.
Well,
hey, how about a Veep for Romney?
Okay, I know I vote for
Condi.
Condi's.
I'd say Condi could be high on the list.
I think she should be.
You'd be getting two of those mindless blocks of you'd get one of the mindless blocks of voters because Condi's a woman, so they all, no matter what else, they all should come voting for Romney because Condi's a female, and then you'd split the black vote.
Well, I think it would be kind of hard. Okay, everybody had their jollies with Sarah Palin. I think it would be extremely hard to criticize Condoleezza Rice.
No question.
In the role as vice president.
She's got some credentials.
And the capabilities of being able, if worse should happen, being a heartbeat away from taking over the presidency.
Yeah,
I don't think that there would be a problem
all her years
with
as Secretary of State, she would be good. Or I suppose you could go with Marco Rubio, and you can pander to the Latino vote.
Yeah, you can pander. Yeah.
But Jeb Bush, no. Paul Ryan,
I don't see how they could consider that. Paul Ryan too, a bit negative with what's going on. I mean, I applaud him for what he's doing. Okay, I applaud him for how he's trying to attack the federal budget and what he's doing. But I just don't see him as vice presidential material. And considering that we can also knock on the door of how poorly Obama is doing outside in foreign policy, I think Condi's got my vote.
Amen. So, thank you for listening with us, and let's start next week with the last word again. Till then, bye-bye.